Have you ever stood at a window at night, watching the world outside move on, while you feel trapped in a life you never chose? That was me. My name is Emily and this is my story. A story about leaving everything I knew in the Philippines at just 19 years old. Marrying a man I barely knew. Crying myself to sleep in a foreign land. And then, slowly painfully finding my strength, and maybe, just maybe, finding love again in the most unexpected way. I was only 19. When I got married to a man named David, my parents believed he was a good man. He had come from the United States. He had a job, money, and a quiet personality. But to me, he was still almost a stranger. I remember the day before I left. My mother sat with me in our small kitchen. She cooked my favorite dish and placed it in front of me. But I could not eat. My throat was tight, my eyes heavy with tears. She held out a silver bracelet and placed it in my hand. This is to remind you of me. Stay strong, my daughter. Her hands shook when she said it. I hugged her so tight I thought I would never let go. She cried. And I cried even harder. Saying goodbye felt like someone was tearing my heart out of my chest. The next morning, we left for the airport. My brother stood quietly. My father looked strong, but I could see his eyes were wet. And me? I was shaking. I had never taken a plane before. I had never even been more than a few towns away. And now I was flying across the ocean, leaving behind everything I loved. The flight was long. My eyes were red from crying. David didn't speak much. He looked out the window most of the time. My stomach hurt, not from the plain food, but from fear. When we landed in New York, it was winter. Snow was falling. I had never seen snow in my life. It should have been beautiful. But all I felt was emptiness. David's father picked us up. His name was Mr. Collins. He looked serious and didn't smile. His wife, Mrs. Collins, waited at home. Their house in New Jersey was small, dark, and very quiet. I was shown my room, and I sat on the bed alone. My heart felt so heavy. That night I couldn't sleep. I thought of my mother, her warm hugs, her laughter, her cooking. I thought of her words, "Stay strong." The next morning, Mrs. Collins called me into the kitchen. She handed me a list of chores. Clean the living room. Wash the dishes. Cook rice. Don't be lazy. Her voice was cold. I didn't understand all her words, but I understood enough. From that day, I worked like a servant, not like a daughter. Law. My back hurt. My hands cracked from the cold water. And still, every night I cried silently into my pillow. David. He was no help. He sat with his father, watched TV, drank coffee. When I asked him if I could rest, he said, "My mom likes things clean. Try your best." I wanted to scream. But the words stayed inside me. I didn't have the English. I didn't have the courage. One night, I burned the rice by mistake. Mr. Collins shouted so loudly that I locked myself in the bathroom and cried. For an hour, I missed my family so much. I begged David to let me call my mother. But he said the phone bill was too expensive. Once a month, he told me, that one call became my lifeline. When I heard her voice, I cried. I lied and told her I was fine. But nothing was fine. After 3 months, I found out I was pregnant. A part of me felt joy. Maybe now things would get better. Maybe the family would soften. Maybe David would love me more. But nothing changed. Mrs. Collins said, "Now you must work harder." A strong woman works even when she is pregnant. I worked with a heavy belly and a heavier heart. David never stood up for me. When I felt sick in the mornings, he only said, "Rest after the work is done." One day I almost fainted in the kitchen. My hands shook, my head spun. I sat on the floor and whispered to the baby inside me, "You are not alone. I will protect you. I will be strong for you." And when he was born, a little boy with big brown eyes, I named him Ethan. The moment I held him, something lit up inside me. For the first time, I felt strong. For him, I would survive. For him, I would fight. But life didn't get easier. I raised Ethan mostly alone. Mrs. Collins refused to help. She said, "He's your baby, not mine." David worked long hours, but even when he was home, he hardly noticed me or Ethan. Ethan grew, and so did my determination. I looked at my mother's bracelet and promised myself, one day this will change. One day, I will have my own life. I decided to learn English. At a community center, I joined free classes. At first, I was scared. My words were broken, my accent heavy. But every new word gave me power. My teacher, Miss Lisa, smiled at me one day and said, "You're smart, Emily. Keep going." No one had called me smart in years. Those words gave me hope. After months of classes, Miss Lisa told me about a part-time job at a bakery. I begged David to let me try. He said, "You won't last a week." But I went. The bakery was warm and friendly. The owner, Mrs. Grace, was kind. She taught me to serve coffee, bake bread, smile at customers. My English was not perfect, but I tried. And when I held my first paycheck in my hands, even though it was small, I cried. For the first time in America, I had something of my own. With that money, I bought Ethan a toy car. I bought myself a coat. Small things, but they felt like freedom. But home was still dark. One night, David came home drunk. He yelled, slammed a chair, scared me and Ethan. I locked the bedroom door and held Ethan all night. My body shaking. The next morning, I told Mrs. Collins. She only said, "You made him angry. Maybe don't talk so much." That day I realized the truth. No one in that house cared for me. No one would protect me. I had to protect myself. One evening, Mr. Collins argued with David about money. Then he turned to me and said coldly, "If you leave, the boy stays." I froze. My knees almost gave out. "He is my son," I whispered. He glared. "This is David's family. The boy stays here." That night, I held Ethan tight and cried harder than ever. "No one will take you from me. I promise." From that day, every dollar I saved, every English word I learned, every step I took, it was for Ethan. At the bakery, I met new people. Customers, neighbors, other mothers, and then one day I met Will. He was a regular customer. He came in every morning for coffee and a roll. He always smiled. At first, it was just small talk. "Good morning. How's your day?" Slowly it grew. He asked about Ethan. He asked about me. When I spoke, he really listened. His eyes were kind, his voice gentle. And for the first time in years, I felt seen. But I was married. I had a child. And my heart was still broken. One rainy evening, I closed the bakery late. Will was outside, holding an umbrella. "Let me walk you," he said. I almost said yes. But then Ethan's face flashed in my mind. I shook my head. "No, thank you." Another time, our hands brushed when I gave him change. The touch was so small, but it sent a shiver through me. I pulled away quickly, my cheeks burning. There were moments, tiny, fragile moments where I felt something pulling me closer to him. And always, I pulled myself back. Through a women's support group I joined, I learned my rights. A kind lady named Helen told me, "No one can take your child away. You have the right to be safe." With her help, I found a small apartment for low-income mothers. I saved enough money for the first month's rent. The day I left the Collins house, my hands were shaking. I packed my clothes, Ethan's toys, my mother's bracelet. Mrs. Collins only said, "You'll come back. You need us." But I knew I never would. The apartment was small, but to me, it felt like a palace. Clean walls, a window piece. I laid Ethan on a blanket and cried. But this time, I cried because I was free. Months later, I received a letter. My mother had passed away. My knees buckled. My heart broke all over again. I cried for days. I thought of her voice, her hugs, her bracelet, But then I remembered her words, "Stay strong," and I whispered, "I will, Mama. I promise." Life was still hard, but it was ours. I worked at the bakery, saved money, cared for Ethan, and Will? He never pushed. He was just there. Patient, steady, kind. One evening, after work, he walked with me and Ethan to the park. Ethan laughed as he ran ahead. Will looked at me and said softly, "Emily, you don't have to carry everything alone." I looked into his eyes, and for the first time, I let myself breathe. We didn't kiss that night. We didn't need to. The closeness, the warmth, it was enough. But inside I knew. A new chapter was waiting. Today, I live with Ethan in our little apartment. I am not rich. I don't have everything. But I have peace. I have freedom. And maybe, just maybe, I have love blooming again. Because sometimes, life doesn't give you the story you expected. But it can still give you a story worth living.